guest this week. Welcome to the Detroit Comedy Podcast, everybody. Our guest this week is regular on Jimmy Fallon, on Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, is Pete Lee, everyone.
Dude, thank you so much for having me here. What's the name of the podcast, by the way?
Detroit Comedy Podcast.
Detroit Comedy Podcast. I love your podcast.
I'm a big
fan.
wanted to go with Detroit House of Podcast, but then we ended up just going with Detroit Comedy Podcast, I guess. SEO and stuff is better. You know?
I like Detroit Comedy Podcast.
Yeah, it works well.
This is very Detroit, man.
Yeah, I mean, we are in the heart of downtown right now. This is literally, that is the beauty of this club, is we are in like the heart of downtown, which is pretty cool. We're like the first comedy club that's been in this area in years and years and years. So
yeah, last night it was amazing. Because like I was joking around about how nice downtown is now, and then like during the middle of the set there were just like police sirens that went by, and I was so happy. I was like so satisfied. I was like, yes, all right, that's the Detroit I remember.
Part of the beauty of downtown. Yeah. Our box office and our door staff, which we got Daniel over here who's door staff, he can vouch for it, is they see wild shit outside because it is downtown. So we've got like Comerica Park where the Tigers play. We got Fox Theater, which is our big mega theater. Then we got Little Caesars Arena over there. So we're surrounded by like all of the hubbub happening down here. So we see drunk people. We see fights. We've seen people get pulled off of pedal pubs going down the street and get into a fight.
Wait, Detroit has pedal pubs?
We sure do.
Like annoying bachelorette party pedal pubs?
Uh-huh.
When I first came down here in the 1990s, it was like really rough, like insanely rough, and like I never thought that it'd be like, woo, it's Trisha's bachelorette party.
We got 3 pedal pub companies that are major players down here now. Yeah, it's wild. We've seen, but I don't know if Daniel was here that night, but there was a night where there was a group of people and they hopped off their pedal pub and got in a fight with somebody who was just on the side of the street yelling names at them and stuff.
Oh my God.
It's like wild. We have people who've just puked outside on the sidewalk, you know, because they're drunk coming out of Tigers games. Like, we see all of it down here. Police sirens are par for the course.
Dude, I just love the idea that, like, was it a group of guys or a group of girls on the pedal pub? Mixed.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So it's like that kind of trashy group of people that they're like pedaling. They probably got like ass sweat going, you know, while they're sipping on their pedal pub. And then you got a guy that's gonna go pick a fight, but like the girl that's not gonna be like, stop it, you're being a savage. The girl that's like, get him, like you know it turns me on.
Jumped off the bike too to go help him. So they're all were like, let's get him, let's get this guy who's yelling. And like apparently it was some dude on the sidewalk yelling names at them. I think maybe a homeless person from like what they sort of put together. I don't know.
Dude, how can you not handle just getting called names?
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Like I lived in New York for 12 years and I live out in LA, and crazy people scream crap at you all the time.
Yeah.
And like you can't get a misdemeanor or a felony over a few names.
You really can't. It's like it's the same way in Detroit. I've gotten called so many names just walking down the street before. Like, and yeah, the fact if you're riding on a pedal pub, like you got to deal with getting called names. It is. What it is.
Also, like all right, like let's say somebody's like. You know, like you're pedaling past on your pedal pub and somebody's like, sissy, you know, or, sissy, that's not even a terrible thing to be called, right? Yeah. But like at some point you got to go, you know, I am drinking on a pedal pub. Like it's something called a pedal pub. Like it's not like you're drinking whiskey straight like a cowboy. Yeah, like Clint Eastwood would never be on a pedal pub.
I mean, some people do though. So like my fiance, she helps do like she's one of these pedal pub drivers. Like she has to help drive them, and like you're basically just a party host. Is really what you are. Like you're basically steering while people get drunk, and you're just like, all right, you guys ready for the next turn? like
please don't fall off.
She just has to stop at bars and like go by. She hates it and loves it. It could pay good money sometimes because of tips, but most of the time it sucks and like the people are awful.
I bet it's terrible. I mean, that sounds awful. She's basically the person in the bobsled that goes left, right, lean left, lean right, but for drunk people on a pedal pub in Detroit. That sounds awful.
Yeah, it's not a lot of fun. But
that's a good person to marry, actually. Like if you can marry somebody who has the tolerance like that they can put up with drunk people in a pedal pub in Detroit. Like that's
she can put up with me,
dude. There's nothing you can throw at her that she can't handle.
Yeah. She's for sure. She used to work in like group homes and like help take care of like autistic children, and like she has so much patience. It's crazy. I have so much admiration for her patience, like a level of patience I know I will never have. Like I'm aware I won't ever have that level of patience, but it's why she's able to also deal with me at times, you know?
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
It's like she has the patience. Like,
dude, there should be like a Tinder of angels. Like is it your wife or your fiance?
My fiance.
All right. There should be like a Tinder that just has like angels like your fiance that have worked in group homes and worked with people that have like sensitive needs and whatnot, so that they can just deal with the insanity that is comedy.
Yeah, it's just for comedians to find love, as we need people who can deal with other people.
Seriously.
That are in worse states than your average person. I guess.
And I mean, I don't know. You seem like a pretty sane person for being a comedian, and I'm definitely on a little bit more of the sane spectrum in terms of comedy. But like, I have friends that are normal, and they're like, "Dude, you're weird." Like I'm, I'm more emotional than most people. I'm on an antidepressant. I'm on Zoloft. You know, my life is much better since getting on Zoloft and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm a comedian. Henceforth, I'm crazy.
We're a little fucked up. Yeah, like I think like just a little bit we have to be. I think most of us are, in some extent, to get into this field in general. You have to be a little messed up in the head, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's, you know, I see a therapist bi-weekly, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
bi-weekly.
We have our medications.
You're on the bi-weekly plan.
Yeah.
Zero judgment. Zero judgment. I think it'd be great if you could go to therapy every single day. And when I say that, I'm not being like, I think you should go to therapy every day.
Felt very pointed.
Yeah, very pointed. I think you should. I've now spent 45 total minutes with you, and I think, my diagnosis is this. I think you're schizophrenic.
I think you need more.
I think you need more.
Bi-weekly doesn't sound enough.
No, but bi-weekly sounds great. I went to therapy for 15 years, and then now I'm on like an as-needed basis. I have like a really great psychiatrist. Shout out to Dr. Rachel. So like if I'm struggling with something now, I go, but other than that, I can pretty much like kind of analyze it on myself. I can figure out, okay, I'm insecure about this. It's because I was this in my childhood.
That's why I got to bi-weekly, is because I used to be on weekly, and then I started getting better with coping and figuring out how to handle stress and like just different things in life. And then my therapist is like, maybe, how would you feel about monthly or bi-weekly? I was like, I'd still like bi-weekly at least.
Yeah.
My therapist is like, we could do monthly if you want. I was like, I think I need more than that still.
Do you mean like bi-monthly? Like you just go 2 times a month?
No, 2 times a month.
I thought you meant 2 times a week.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay,
no,
all right.
Is it
okay.
my bad? Am I saying that wrong?
Maybe. I think it might be bi-monthly. Bi-weekly would be like 2 times a week, right? No, it's not.
I think bi-weekly. I feel like that's what my therapist calls it.
Yeah. Now you're gonna be talking about this in therapy. You're gonna be like, I don't like conflict, and I got.
I met a comedian this week, and he was gaslighting me about our therapy
schedule. He was 100% gaslighting me, and
this is what I'm gonna talk about. Is Pete Lee gaslit me?
Just this podcast we did was filled with microaggressions, and I could not. I could not handle it. But I had this therapist that like he was. At first, I thought he was a pretty good therapist, but then, and I think he was a good therapist, but he wrote a book and he self-published it, and like he would talk to me like before and after the sessions about like, you know, how he published his book, and it like cost him a ton of money, and like I'd be in my therapy sessions with
have
like.
Have you gotten your copy yet? He just like keeps asking you every week.
Honestly, did he's like, did you buy your copy? And I was like, yeah, man, I bought it off of Amazon. You know, like you now got 24 more extra dollars out of me.
Place, you know, you didn't give me a discount code or anything. I bought it full price.
Full price. Yeah. Like, and I also was spending $225 a week out of pocket with this guy. And
he's also trying to convince you to spend an extra 24 on the side.
Because he wouldn't take my insurance. On stage, I do a bit about being in therapy for 15 years and it costing $100 a week. Because I actually found that if I said $225, people were like, they'd be like, I don't even believe that. Like if because in some town, like if you're in like New York or LA, people understand that price and like the out of pocket thing. But like in like Des Moines, they're like, no, he takes my insurance, because I think people are more reasonable in not New York and LA. But anyway, so this guy's like all stressed out because he wrote a book, and like he's got like just shit tons of books in boxes. So like I can see he hasn't sold any, and like I bought one.
It's his backdrop.
Yeah,
you're on Zoom.
And he kept saying like he's like, so how are you feeling? And I'm like, actually I've been feeling pretty good lately. Like I'm feeling pretty good. And he's like, all right, so you're a little defensive. And I'm like, no, like I'm not defensive. You asked me how I'm feeling. I'm feeling pretty good. Like I'm pretty relaxed, And he's like, sometimes when you're feeling the best, that's when you're not actually doing the best. And I was like, what? I'm like, dude, this is crazy. I'm like, I'm telling you, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm like, I'm sure that something's going to come up. We can get into something. I'm like, are you trying to fast track into something? And he's like, man, you are so defensive today. And I'm like, what? I'm like, is this like a technique where you're trying to piss me off? Like I was happy and now I'm not. I'm like, I'm starting to get pissed off. He's like, sometimes when you think you don't need therapy, you need more of it. And I think you should come 2 times a week, is what he says to me. And I look around the room and I'm like, you want me to come 2 times a week? Not because I need it, but because you haven't sold any fucking books. And he's like, there's that anger. And I was like, well, yeah, you're trying to fuck me over. You're trying to get $450 a week. Like this is, you're a con artist. And I was like, I really got into it with him, and I was like, dude, you're literally like a low grade con artist. I'm like, I think therapy is like such a worthwhile thing. I don't even know how people can be therapists. Like, I don't know how it's like a special gift to want to be able to sit in a chair and help people for 8 hours a day.
The fact that you can sit there and like listen to people's problems and actually want to help them try and solve every single one of them.
Yeah.
It's like, and also not be judgmental the whole time. That's like a whole other thing.
And
like,
calm and I mean, because I dated a gal for a while who was a psychiatrist, and it's basically customer service for like people who have anger issues, like depression, anxiety, anger, sadness. Those are all one thing that go under one umbrella. And she was basically doing customer service for that the whole time. And like, I felt sorry for her. I mean, she had miserable days. And so like, I feel for any therapist. So like, if there are therapists watching, I'm not shitting on therapists or therapy. I'm just specifically shitting on this guy in New York who had a stack of books.
Was more concerned about book sales.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, it's a business, and this guy was like trying to ramp up his business to cover his costs and all this stuff. But
I go to like this therapy office that's more of like a, I guess for lack of a better term, it's more of a woke therapy office. I guess. Like,
all right.
It's they're like. It's very holistic. Like they have like holistic stuff there and whatnot, So I think they are more, I guess, focused on the client, because it's a lot of like, I think, younger therapists in there too, who like probably their oldest ones are maybe in their mid 30s or so. You know, like it's so. I think it's more of this like forward-thinking therapy office where they're really focused on clients more so than a lot of other offices, a lot of other therapy offices I've come across in the past. So I've had great experience with mine, but I've also had terrible experiences. So it took me years to get back into therapy as an adult, because like I just had bad experiences with it as a kid, because I was forced into it as a kid to do therapy and counseling, because I think, like you, I come from divorced parents.
Yep.
And they were back and forth in custody battles. And so it was like always court mandated therapy or like psychiatry or whatever. And I hated it as a kid. So it took me a long time as an adult to come back around to the idea of it being able to help me, because it felt like an inconvenience as a child. I was like, I want to play PlayStation, and you're making me go talk to this lady for an hour that I don't want to talk to, who makes me kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah. And therapy, I had to do therapy when I was a little kid too, and it felt like adult stuff. They're like, and how are you feeling, and how are you coping? And I understand that that's all the same stuff that like Mr. Rogers talked about. I want to play
Grand Theft Auto.
I just wanted to go out and skateboard. Like I wanted to go like vent my angst with sports or whatever, I didn't want to talk like I had one of those therapists when I was a kid that did like the Rorschach things, like what do you see here, and like it was like I was into video games. I'm like, I don't know, Mike Tyson's Punch Out. Like I don't know, like this is stupid.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I don't know. I feel like as an adult, therapy makes a lot more sense. Maybe it actually makes more sense to get it while it's forming. And
I think it helps a lot as an adult, especially like as I said, like how like I think we came from sort of similar upbringings where we had divorced parents. Sort of, and from what I read, you're sort of raised in front of a TV as well.
Yeah.
Like, which was very much sort of what happened to me. Like I got a TV in my bedroom and I kept myself busy. I got, like, when I was in, like, high school, like, early, like, 9th grade, I think, that's when, like, DVR started becoming a bigger thing, and we got it in my home, and I was just watching every single sitcom that was on every night. I recorded every sitcom that was on, like, NBC, CBS, like, Fox, and I made sure to catch all the sitcoms, basically, and that was my jam, and, like...
Yeah. People ask me all the time, they'll be like, well, was your family funny? And my brother was funny, because he watched the same TV shows as I did, but like we really got all of our comedic timing from watching all those classic sitcoms. Like, I don't know, like I don't think that sitcoms are as good now as they used to be.
Absolutely not. There's a few here and there that stick out in between.
Definitely.
But they're way more few and far between now. They used to create great ones constantly, it felt like.
Well, it was big business, and so the talented people flocked towards that. It's kind of like how in the United States, the most talented athletes flock towards like football, baseball, basketball, and a little less towards soccer because it's just not as big a business and you're also not as cool in certain neighborhoods if you play soccer. Like I think that back in the day, all the most successful writers were like, oh my God, there's so much money in sitcoms. We got to gravitate towards that, and we need to specialize in this. I mean, some of the greatest sitcoms ever were during those times, and I think it kind of made a little bit of a funny generation. SNL was really great back then. Not that it's not now. One of my friends, Michael Che, is the head writer, and Colin, I think your show's great.
Thank you for watching Colin Jost.
Yeah. I don't even watch SNL, and I have friends on it now. And I think it's just because
isn't that such like a crazy thing? I have a couple of friends who like write for it, but I have like one sort of buddy. I'd stretch to call them a friend, but a buddy who's on it, Sarah Sherman.
Oh yeah,
who like
Sarah's
I've worked
great.
with a few times in the past, But yeah, it's so wild having friends on stuff like that and like seeing your friends thrive and whatnot.
Yeah, and when I was a little kid, if I had a friend on television, period, I would watch every single thing that they did.
Now, we'll miss episodes and
like I'll say, you know what I do with SNL is like usually the next day because I follow SNL on Instagram and TikTok, and if a clip is going viral, I'll see it. I'm sure I'll see it, or if I see a clip of it, I'll go watch the whole thing on YouTube. But it's just like little things piecemeal. I never sit down and just like watch on the DVR like a whole SNL episode. And I feel like I'm very close with a lot of people on that show. And I don't know, like one of my best friends is Nikki Glazer. I love her. She's so freaking funny, and she has a new special out on HBO Max, and I haven't seen it, and that's terrible.
I will be honest, the thing that I've been obsessed with Nikki Glazer lately is F-Boy Island.
Oh,
it is such a joy to watch.
Yeah.
I've watched that show religiously. That is a fun-ass show to watch. It's got to be so weird to have to host that thing on her part. Like
it's I think it's one of the it's a perfect vehicle for her because she gets to be funny, and I think she's an executive producer as well, so she really has say over like how she's funny and whatnot. So it's not something like every once in a while on a TV show you get an executive producer that you're like, God, I don't know how to be funny within this person's parameters. And like that show is like tailor made for her because I think she tailor-made it for her.
Yeah, it's like it's so good, and it's so great being able to watch the host also be able to shit on these guys, basically tell them to their face, like, you're a dirtbag.
Yeah.
Like, no woman should ever be with you. Like she just looks them in the eyes and tells them exactly how she feels, or will like genuinely do a solid roast joke about them, where I'm like, no other reality dating show host is roasting the contestants like this when like they're clearly a dirtbag. Like, because a lot of these other shows have the dirtbags on them, but the hosts, they're just like, have a good night, go home. Like, and, like she's just like, she will shit on them on their way out the door.
And she's one of the best roasters on the planet. I don't know if you've ever gone down a YouTube rabbit hole just watching her roast, but like her roast clips are legendary. I mean, I remember coming up and seeing, like, you know, you'd go through down like a Greg Giraldo or a Jeff Ross rabbit hole of watching all of their roast clips, or like even like a Don Rickles. Well, like I've recently been down a Nikki Glaser roast clip rabbit hole, and it's like, you're just pissing your pants. She's so good. So like, imagine being one of these guys that like, they're I don't know, like they're F-boys or whatever. And they're like, women laugh at my jokes. And then you got this host that is just one of the sharpest brains in the business, just coming at you with everything that she can give you. Like, that has to be intimidating for some of those guys.
And it's also, I think, for a lot of these dudes, it hits them even harder because it's from a woman. Like, you know, like it's not
ego-wise.
Like man. Yeah, exactly. A lot of these dudes can't take that from a woman, or like they're not prepared to in their head, because they're always the alpha, you know, in their heads. And like a lot of those dudes on that show, at least. You know?
And women are always swooning and kind of being at their best around them. By the way, I have a surprise. So, so I have a thing. It's a tradition with my girlfriend Nicole. So I know that you have a fiance, and I'm not trying to make you cheat or whatever with your eyes, but Nicole does this thing where every single time that I'm on a podcast, she texts me in the middle of it because she knows that my screen will light up, and it's always some sort of tit pic, and it's in a bra. His fiance, this is me doing this to him, to Kyle. But she does something that is sort of within the theme of the podcast. Like, I was on Adam Carolla's podcast, and she like did like a flannel with a tool belt, and then it was like cleavage or whatever. And so this is just cleavage. She said, don't know anything about this podcast, but I guess Detroit is dangerous. So I went with the theme of the city, black bra. So black bra.
There's a knife inside of the photo too.
Oh, there is a knife.
Holding a knife.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
At first, it just sounded like a race thing there, Pete. I'll be honest with you, but then you realized the knife was there.
Yeah, I didn't mean black bra in terms of race. Which, by the way, I don't think that sentence is like, nobody's been like, oh, look at those black bras over there. But I thought that was a ribbon from her hair.
No, that's a knife.
That's a knife. Oh my god. All right.
No,
Wow.
It's like a kitchen blade knife.
Yeah.
So like a slasher flick.
It's a slasher flick.
That looks like the cover of a slasher movie, of like a cheesy B movie slasher movie.
It does. If there was just blood on her tits, it would.
And then just some font above, you know.
Yeah. Oh my god. I'm so happy that there's a knife in this. That makes it way better. In my head, I was like, man, this was a little bit of a lazy tit pick. Like, this is a lazy tit pick. Because she just did a black bra, like, oh, you wear black clothing in Detroit because it's dangerous. But no, she's got a full-on knife. I would say my one critique of it is, you know, like maybe a little bit more of the handle, you know, in it.
More of the handle.
More of the handle in it.
Guess.
But so the game of the whole thing is that she sends some sort of a cleavage pic, and then as two witty people on a podcast, we have to craft a witty response to her. So that's what we have to do. Like when you're first dating somebody, you basically have to assume that every text that you send to her, she's got a whole committee of her friends responding with something witty to you. So right now,
especially when you know, like, they're at the bar together or something, and you're like, this isn't, whatever response I'm getting isn't just her right now. Like, there's 3 other friends sitting right next to her currently.
Yeah, and it might even be one of her, it might be like her slutty friends being like, let me take this. Yeah. You know?
And you can tell when it's not in their voice, and you're like, so who typed that? Like,
yeah. And you're like, what is this?
Yeah.
And it's also a little disappointing when it's like something really dirty, and she's like, oh yeah, like Melanie sent that, and you're like, well, shit. like damn, all right.
What's Melanie up to? No.
Yeah, exactly. I think can you always have Melanie write me back? But no, and in Nicole's defense, she's like one of the wittiest people that I know. So all right, so we gotta think of a thing about Detroit, maybe the knife, tits.
I was gonna say it looks like the next sequel to Sleepaway Camp or something. I don't
all
know.
right, I like that.
That's it. I'm like stuck on horror movies right now. That's what that looks like to me. Is like so many horror movie covers that I've seen before.
Yeah, hilarious.
How did you two meet?
So Nicole and I actually met after a show. I was in Scottsdale, Arizona.
That's where my sister lives right now.
Really?
Yeah. What club were you at? Stand Up Live or
CB Live? It's
CB
owned
Live.
by Stand Up Live, and I just wrote "This is so hot and hilarious," and then now I'm gonna write the official podcast response. So
you're down at Scottsdale, CB Live, and then she saw you perform that night. Was she a fan already, or did she even know who you were?
No, she had no idea. So she was out at a happy hour with a friend, and then she got a call from her friend Pat and Morgan. Pat is our friend that he's our mutual friend, and he's the CEO of the company Taser, like that. Yeah. And so Pat runs Taser, and he's just like a guy that he's our age, and he can he's like a little bit more money, so he's that guy that's like, come to the comedy show, I'll pay, he's at that level of fun right now. And anyway, so Pat was like, oh dude, you're single. He's like, I gotta hook you up with my friend Nikki. And I was like, oh, okay, and then he kept bringing it up. He kept being like, oh dude, wait till you see Nikki. Oh wait, oh my God. Yeah. And he just was selling it a little too hard to where I was like, this isn't gonna be good. This is not gonna be good at all. And then after the show, I sold merch, and I just was not in a hurry to get over to meet this single friend that he sold a little too hard. And then my opening act, Michael, he's like, hey man, come into the other bar. They're doing live karaoke with the band, and I want you to sing a Backstreet Boys song with me. And
are you big on karaoke? Do you usually do karaoke?
I'm not a huge karaoke person. I mean, I do love Backstreet. All right. But it was that song "Show Me the Meaning of Being Lonely" because I used to do a bit about it.
So the saddest Backstreet Boys song you could have done.
Saddest Backstreet Boys song. And I remember on the way up to the stage, Pat was like, "Hey, this is Nikki," and I was like I walked past her like, "That's Nikki." I was like, "What in the hell?" She's so beautiful.
So lonely.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh my God, I totally get why he was selling her so hard. She's just so beautiful." And so the whole time I'm singing, I'm singing the song basically to her.
Yeah.
And then they made us do another song. It was the a Backstreet Boys song. I don't know what it's called, but it's like, tell me why it ain't nothing but a heartache. Yeah, that one. I Want It That Way. Yeah. That's what it's called. I Want It That Way. And the whole time I'm trying to see through the stage lights, and I'm so I was really looking hard at her. So it looked like I was just singing right to her. And I was just being like, God, I got to check out this girl. And she thought man, this guy's really singing to me.
So she didn't even see you do comedy that night.
No, she saw me do comedy.
Oh, okay.
and I killed. It was great. But and by the way, had I even thought that she was going to be her, I would have been nervous to do that show in front of her. But so I wasn't even nervous. It was, just whatever. And so then, and then we went to, I was really nervous. I do a bit about this on stage, but I was really nervous, and I was like, do you want to do a shot? And then we did a shot, and then I'm not forward, I'm not a player, but I was like, can I kiss you? And she was like, oh my God, yeah. And so we kissed 2 minutes into knowing each other. It was nuts. And then we spent that whole weekend together and just had a blast together. But then, I left Arizona and I live in LA. And I was like, so I don't know what's going to happen here, but I really liked her. And then she sent me some cute pictures, and I would like show them to my friends. And I was all into being single at that point. I was like, I'm single. Like, you know, when you're single, you're like, I'm single and I'm being single. And I was like waking up and texting Nicole every single morning, and like, you know, like texting her before I went to bed, all that kind of stuff. And I would be like, man, being single feels good. And like, it wasn't being single that felt good. It was that, like, I was falling in love with her, you know, over time. And like, it felt good to be like falling in love with her. But like,
how long ago was this that you met originally?
We met back in June. It was June 25th, I believe, of 2021. This feels like a court deposition.
I'm just curious. How long after that? So you guys are living together now?
Yeah, we're living together now. So it was.
How long after that?
It was a couple months later. So we saw each other again in July, and then we saw each other. I just invited her to my house in August. I was like, you should come to the house. I live in a great ocean house. Like we just walk out the door and we surf. And I was like, come to my house, surf. You know, and
humble brag.
Yeah, humble brag. Humble brag.
Humble brag. Got the beach house.
Got the beach house. Right. I got a deal on it. That's the only way that I can live.
Sure, we all do. Yeah.
I knew a guy. Yeah. I knew a guy. But yeah, so she came up and we just had a great time, and then I was flying to Hawaii to go to a wedding.
From the beach house, you flew to Hawaii?
Which seems redundant. It seems so redundant. Like if you're already at the beach house, why do you have to fly to Hawaii? Spend all that money. And so I flew to Hawaii for it was one of my best friends and my neighbor's wedding, and then, you know, Nicole was staying at my house, and I was like, you know what? Like, it's way too last minute for me to invite you to this wedding, but I'm gonna lay over in Hawaii for another week, and like afterwards. And I was like, I go, what's your schedule like on Friday? Because it was a Thursday wedding, and she's like, I don't know. And I was like, check your email inbox, and I had like sent her a plane ticket to Hawaii. And I just did it on a whim. I was like, God, this is crazy. There's so many things that I did with her early on that I'm like, that was crazy behavior. But I'm like, well, that paid off because it was a bold move.
Yeah, and then I mean, that's great though. I mean, you seem to be very happy in the relationship now. And she seems to be very happily in love with you. She sends you boob pics every time you're on a podcast.
Yeah, which, by the way,
that's true love.
I haven't. So I think I'm trying to think. I wrote, here's the official podcast response. And what was your response?
Oh, I was just gonna say it looks like a sequel to Sleepaway Camp.
Looks like a sequel to the movie. This is really good podcasting.
Yeah. I'm just gonna keep asking you about the next thing then.
Yeah, I'm gonna write. One looks like a sequel to the movie Sleepaway Camp, and I'm gonna write a second one too. That. Hold on, you gotta wait for this.
This may all get cut. We have no idea. I don't know. I don't get final say in the final cut, so we'll see what happens, how much of this makes it in.
All right.
They might just cut to the funny parts after you're done typing.
Number 2 is that knife looks way too expensive for Detroit. It is a Wusthof Trident, but another brag. Knife brag.
You're bragging about the knife brag.
Knife brag. Isn't it funny? Like a Wusthof Trident is like a really fancy, nice. You know.
Are you a cook? Are you a gourmand?
I cook a little bit. Nicole cooks a gourmand. I'm a gourmand. But like, I don't even understand the idea that one knife can be more expensive than others, because like now even the shittiest knife is pretty sharp. Like, you're not buying a dull knife, and so I don't know why the Wusthof is. Yeah, it stays sharp. That's the whole thing. Yeah. So anyway,
I always think of the. I don't know if you're a fan of The Office or not, but there's like an episode where they're at the hibachi restaurant, and like Dwight's like talking to the dude about the knife. He's like, "Is that a yakitori $9.50?" And he's like, "It is." He's like, "I bet wish you had this one." He's like, "No, actually, this one's better." And he's like, "I don't think so." Like, they're like.
Oh my God.
I don't know. It's just stupid, but that makes me think about that when it's just like he just tried to tell the chef there like what's a better knife or whatever.
Yeah, and of course Dwight knows it, and of course Dwight has one on
He like
him.
looks at him and he's like, "Is that a Yakitori 950?" But yeah, so it made me think of that. It's just you had like the name of the knife right off the top.
Oh yeah, Wusthof Trident. I had never seen.
She cooks a lot. You don't cook as much though. You said.
I can cook, and I'm a decent cook, but she's an amazing cook, and it's crazy because going on the road like this, I'm like you can probably see I'm slouching, like I literally have my tits hunched over, but like I'm a little fat right now, and I'm just like leaning into it. But like the weirdest part is that like when we're home, Nicole, she cooks like really healthy food. Like I call it like being on a Tom Brady diet. Like Nicole's like she used to work for a nutrition company. She like knows nutrition. She even like weighs the food, and like so I know that when I'm eating at home, I'm getting exactly what my body needs. And like when I'm working out, when I'm at home, I feel great. Like I literally feel 10 years.
She's got you on a plan.
She's got me on a plan. And then
you come here and
go,
have buffalo wings for dinner.
Last night you saw me like
I saw.
Like I got off stage and I'm like sucking the meat off of a buffalo wing, and I ate a whole order of buffalo wings. And I was actually proud of myself because I didn't have any carbs with it. I was like, man, I feel like I could go to bed without even eating, and I just ate like 1,600 calories worth of buffalo sauce and wings, and yeah, so
it was delicious though, right?
Oh, it was so delicious.
Yeah, and then, they got good wings here.
And then I took home that grinder, and I took home the salad.
I wasn't gonna put that on blast. I was gonna let you put that out there.
I took
Pete.
home and like I was
just calling out the wings. All right.
I was just about to go to bed, and like I'd already brushed my teeth, right? And so like, but I'd brushed my teeth like a half an hour early, and then I'm like the grinder was just like sitting there, still hadn't even put it in the fridge. That's how disgusting I was. And the grinder was like, "Hey, Pete, it's me, Grinder." Yeah. And I open it up, and there's just so much melted cheese on the side of that meat. I took like 2 bites of it and threw it in the fridge. And I was like, son of a bitch, that was good. Oh, all right. Well, all right, Pete, you're doing good. You only ate a whole order of buffalo wings with none of the vegetables that were included in it, and 2 bites of a grinder, which those 2 bites were half of a grinder, by the way.
Yeah.
So I'm on half Tom Brady diet and then half
comic on the road diet.
Yeah, truck driver diet.
It's that road diet
ridiculous.
Is rough, especially when it's comedy club food, it could be rough.
But but then when I always get mad at myself on the other direction, whenever I'm out at a comedy club and I'm on the road and I don't eat the comedy club food, I look at those, like $34 at a time. Like you go to a restaurant, you get a salad, you get, a club soda, whatever. You're trying to eat healthy. And then at the end of the week, you wind up spending $150. Yeah. And I have business managers that they just do my money stuff. And they'll be like, "Hey, man, can you dial back some of the expenses?" And I'm like, "All right, well, I guess I'll be fat and I'll eat the comedy club food." So what I'm trying to say is it's not my fault.
Yeah, it's our fault. Here at Detroit House of Comedy, we make our comedians fat.
Yeah, dude, it's so delicious. It's so delicious. I took a can of beer on stage. I love a comedy club where you can take a can of beer on stage. That just, it makes it feel like more of a hang,
I think they do it because it's easier than going and getting drafts every single time. So a lot of things they could just do in cans. It's a lot easier from our point of view.
Oh, I'm not even being sarcastic. I love taking a can of beer on stage. Even a bottle of beer is just different vibe-wise than a can of beer. A can of beer says, "I'm getting drunk with you."
Yeah, I love, I don't usually drink alcohol, but I like if I can take Coca-Cola in a whiskey glass, glass up on stage with me rather than like a pint glass. It gives the illusion that I'm cooler than I am, maybe, It looks just that little bit cooler, with the small straw and whatnot.
Yeah, it feels social.
Yeah.
It feels social. You want to...
It's such a lame thing in our heads. We have these little things. But.
Well, that's why I even like that you guys have red Solo cups. Like, even if I wanted... Because I'm trying to drink less, I drink a lot of whiskey. Like, I love whiskey. I specifically love Macallan Scotch. I now have gotten to the point where, my manager will put it in my rider if I'm doing, a corporate gig or, just, certain gigs, I just get a bottle of Macallan Scotch. And so, I take home bottles. So, the whole top of my fridge is Macallan bottles. And so I have a surplus of this fancy whiskey that I like. and it's just dangerous because I can drink it all the time. Yeah. And so I'm actually trying to like dry up when I go on the road instead of drying. Like most comics go on the road, they get crazy and then they dry up at home, and I'm trying to do the opposite.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to do it then. You know, you're just spending your weeks drinking all the whiskey and then spending the weekends just drying up.
Just drying up, secretly drinking water on stage. I don't know. I'll probably have beer on stage all weekend because it's just fun to take a can of beer up. But I remember this is the moment that I thought that I maybe had a drinking problem. I was at the Comedy Club on State Street in Madison, Wisconsin, and
known for being one of the best comedy clubs in the country by many.
Yeah, it's so great. It's no Detroit House of Comedy, drink, dine, laugh.
We're brand new. Comedy on State has been around for years and establishing themselves, and they have established themselves as one of the premier comedy clubs in the whole country.
Yeah.
And it's, I believe it's independently ran, correct?
Independent, it's owned by the Paris family. They're a Greek family, and their real last name is like Paris Dupastopoulos.
And their daughters run it now, if I'm correct.
Yeah. Even Anna run it, and they're fantastic. They love comedy. They love comedians. And so when I went there, they got me a bottle of Macallan 12, and I was like, oh, this is great. So Thursday night, first shows of the week, I'm drinking it during the shows, and then afterwards we sit at the bar, and we're all drinking at the after bar, and I have a couple more whiskeys. And then I remember a friend of mine told me that Ron White used to drink a whole bottle of Johnny Walker Black in a weekend. And I was like, man, that is terrible. That is so crazy that he drinks a whole bottle of Johnny Walker. He puts that into his body. He's not going to live for very long, right? And I'm talking to the bartender Friday early show, and I'm like, yeah, can I get a Macallan 12 to take on stage? And I go, oh man, I'm like, a bunch of people must have put a dent in that bottle because it was half gone. It was like over half gone.
Yeah.
Like there was only this much left in it. And he goes, nah, just you, pal. And I was like, oh, shit. That I drank that much.
This is my last one this weekend, actually.
Yeah. And then by the end of that night, I had already drinking a whole bottle of Macallan. And I was like, well, Macallans must be smaller than Johnny Walker's, right? Like, they've got to be smaller. And the bartender was like, nope, 750 milliliters. And that was when I learned how many milliliters there were. Nope. You have a problem, Pete. Yeah. And that was the first time that I thought maybe I had a problem. And that was pre-pandemic, and now I think I drink more because of the pandemic. I mean, what were you going to do?
It is hard, though, like when I think especially when it seems like things are like still also like going very well career-wise. It's hard, I love weed, and I'm like, I don't think I necessarily have a problem. I'm like, I get all my stuff done. I still write stand-up. I help run a comedy club. Like I am very effective. I get my shit done, and I prioritize my life. And it's like, if you are prioritizing your life right, I think at times you can easily look at it and be like, I don't have a problem at all. Like, I'm getting everything done in a timely manner. Nothing's like being put on the back burner here. Like, we're good. Like, and it's so easy to feel that way, I think, at times. Like, and so, I'm using this all as a segue, if I'm being honest, because you do have you do stay steady working, not just in stand-up though, but like you've done writing and producing and creating and stuff like that as well. Yeah. And I thought one of the most interesting things that I found that I wanted to ask you specifically about is you helped create the show Going Cyril with Cy from Duck Dynasty.
Yes, I did.
How did this even come about? How'd you end up with the Duck Dynasty folks? How'd you create Going Cyril?
I know, yeah. So my friend Josh Wade, he was the executive producer and then also one of the writers for Duck Dynasty for forever. And every once in a while, like if he needed an idea or whatnot, like he would come to me and we would just do like a phone brainstorm. So like I was kind of like a quiet contributor,
like a ghost writer in a sense to Duck Dynasty, kinda.
But it was more just like it was fun to hang out with Josh and just bullshit and talk about what could happen or whatever. And so. And like whenever Josh would be submitting for a writing job or whatever, like he'd always come to me and we'd bounce, like I was like a sounding board, and then I'd give him tags and whatnot. So he trusted me as a writer. So when the idea for Going Cyril came up, Josh was like, all right, we gotta collaborate on this. And so the production company hired me, and the whole premise of the show, if people don't know it, Cy, he's like the older guy on Duck Dynasty.
The grandpa.
He's the grandpa. He's the guy that like doesn't drink water. Like he gets water from the ice in his iced tea.
Yeah.
Like he's that guy. Yeah. He's
he
really
uses the same cup all the time, like those old Tupperware cups that they used to sell.
Yeah, the old ones. Yeah. Like, and he's like, he hunts, but like he loves his poodles, because poodles are actually the best hunting dog. Yeah. And so like he's just an oddball all across the board. Well, one of the qualities about Cy is that he's never been on the internet. Like he's proud of it. Like nope, got a flip phone, don't need to be on the internet, don't need any of that stuff. And he's right. Like most of us probably shouldn't be on the internet so much. So we thought that it'd be a really funny idea if we showed like Uncle Cy the internet. And just get his genuine reaction to like viral clips. And it was also a good way to like go back and use viral videos that were in like an old catalog that people had already seen, and maybe they're not impressed by the like I like turtles kid, but like they would probably be impressed by Uncle Cy, like having never seen that kid, getting his reaction to it. Bless you. Yeah, so we did that whole production. We wrote and produced 10 episodes of it, and yeah, it was absolutely amazing. And like,
how was it working with Cy himself?
Oh, terrific! Yeah, I mean, Cy and Willie, it's crazy because
they're unique characters.
They're such unique characters, and the way that Duck Dynasty. A lot of the lines, because people like watching it because they're like, oh, these are really witty people, and they really were witty. But there was also, it's reality TV, so technically speaking, you can't have writers. So there were producers that could be in the room that could give them a funny line. And so imagine like most reality shows are what they call scripted reality. Like the Kardashians are this, just most reality shows are this thing where the producers are like, this is what needs to happen in the episode, right? Like you lost your dog, you need to get it back. The whole episode is going to be trying to find your dog. And we're going to put you in a living room scene. We're going to have a kitchen scene. We're going to have a scene where you're out looking for the dog. Then we're going to have a scene where you go find the dog, and the dog already has a dog house at the new house.
So gross to think that this is like what we all love as a society, is these things that are so clearly staged too. Like it's wild. Yeah,
and like you basically have to write it like a 2-act sitcom. And so like in the dog example, like they finally see the dog, it's in somebody's backyard, they've already bought it a dog house, and then they try to confront the owners. They're like, no, that's my dog. So that's the end of act 1, right? But then one of the owner's wife has a dog allergy. Now they got to give up the dog, but they're too prideful to give it back to the real people, so they put up an ad on Craigslist, right? Well, then so they have to get the people whose dog was lost.
Is this a real Duck Dynasty episode?
No, I'm literally just coming up with an episode right now. So then the people
Are you pitching me? Are we in the room right now?
We're in the room. We're in the room where it happens. So they actually have to go get a separate friend that didn't piss off those people to go get their dog back, and then there's a happy ending where they got the dog, right? So that's like an episode of a scripted reality show.
Right, well, I'm going to tell you right now, you got the green light, Pete.
I got the green light.
You got the green light.
We're doing this project.
We're giving you $200K to make the pilot.
Yeah,
all right.
we're doing this project, and but that's basically an episode. But so Cy, like Cy and Willie, like they're so good because they had done, I think, 13 seasons of that show.
That's wild.
And so they're so good at riffing and taking a line and just running with it that they're basically more seasoned than most sitcom actors.
They know who they are, and
they know who they are.
It's reacting to stuff as exactly who you are. That's that's so interesting. I mean, I was just curious how that all came about. That's
so and the show was it was wonderful. I mean, it only ran for 1 season, which I was getting ready to, write on more seasons of it. But, stuff comes and goes, and you get projects that happen. I can't say what the project is that I'm working on right now, but earlier this week I started, I'm the voice of an animated cartoon character, and
can you say where it's at, where it's headed?
Well, I can tell you generally about the project and like who's involved, but There was somebody that was involved in the project that was like a big star that he dropped out.
Ryan Reynolds.
Oh God, I wish it was Ryan Reynolds. But they called me 4th of July weekend, and they were like, "Hey man, the star of our show dropped out. We need to find a replacement, and like, would you consider submitting for it?" So like, I did an audition 4th of July weekend while I was on the road in Salt Lake City, and then just kind of forgot about it for 2 weeks. And then I got a call, and it's like they're like, "No, your voice is perfect for this character." And I was like, "What? You're kidding me?" And after I had already gotten it, I found out that the people behind it are all the people that did Hamilton, which like Hamilton's one of my favorite pieces of art ever. And
so it's like the Lin-Manuel Miranda team.
Yeah, it's that whole team. And the first episode of the show that I did, I actually got to sing a duet with Lin-Manuel Miranda.
I was going to ask, was there singing involved?
There was singing involved.
So do you consider yourself a decent singer? I hear karaoke, you're doing Backstreet Boys.
Yeah.
I hear you're singing on TV shows.
I mean, yeah, I'm a triple threat. I'm a song, dance, and comedy man.
I didn't know you had the song in you.
Yeah, I got the song. Well, the weird thing was that this character, and like I can't even do the voice of the character, but the character's voice is like, it's like 3% off from my voice, but the pitch is a little higher than mine. So like I had to sing as this character that is already just like the vocal range is already a stretch for me, much less singing. And that was the first thing that I had to do on the project. But it was a great warm up because I wasn't I did 4 episodes of it on Tuesday. And like
such like a Bob's Burgers thing. I feel like they do that a lot on Bob's Burgers. I
Uh-huh.
feel like it's like the people have to sing in character. You know?
Gotta sing in character.
Yeah, like that's a big thing on Bob's Burgers that I've like thought about. I'm like, that's got to be a little difficult. Is like singing while staying in character to some extent.
It is, but in a way it's easier because if you were singing as you'd be like, how do I make this sound good as me with my voice? And you get in your head about sounding stupid, because you never want
a character. There's less stakes in it.
You're already stupid.
Yeah, it's also your face isn't necessarily attached right to the character. It's not coming out of your face.
Yeah.
To the camera, it's coming out of a character's mouth on camera.
Yeah. So in that way, I felt
or not even on camera, I guess.
Yeah, I felt like my guard was down in terms of the character, but. Yeah, so that's the project that I'm working on now. And
then you also got Snuggle Storm, which is your podcast that you're doing.
Yeah, it's crazy. I haven't done a lot of episodes of Snuggle Storm. I think I did like 15 episodes of it, and then, you're doing a podcast right now. Like it's a lot of work to do a podcast, and I don't think that hosting a podcast was the thing that I'm the best at. And I know a lot of people that they're on like episode 300 of their podcast and it hasn't caught on, and they're just like, no man, like I'm gonna be the next Joe Rogan.
Episode 357.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't know if this is gonna happen for you. But like I was just looking at it like every single time that I tried to promote my podcast on Instagram, I'd have to like beg people to like repost it. I'd like send DMs, and like nobody just saw it and went, oh, this is great, let me repost it, because it wasn't that good.
For what it's worth, you had cool merch. I saw the merch on your Instagram, and that shirt that you had for it looked metal. It looked like a metal band's t-shirt.
Yeah.
I was like, who's Snuggle Storm? They look like they rip.
Well, what I did was I wound up doing a couple different iterations of Snuggle Storm. So Snuggle Storm was it was a podcast, then it became like a green screen show where I did it straight to camera and just like riffed on something, a topic of the week. And then like that was the same, where it was just like the podcast where it wasn't going anywhere. I didn't really love doing it. And then I was like, well, you know what? I love stand-up comedy. Like that's what I've been doing for 24 years. I love stand-up. So I was like, you know what I'm going to do? Like, I'm going to make a stand-up series, and I committed to doing like 20 videos where I'm just going to brand them as Snuggle Storm. So at the end of it, there's going to be like a little Snuggle Storm bumper, the same one that I used to have at the end of the podcast. And I don't know if you've seen it, but I can show it to you. But so like I just branded my stand-up as Snuggle Storm content, and then I still sell, I sell the merch at the end of the shows and stuff. So like this is today's video, and then at the very end I have a bumper on every single one of them.
Yeah.
So everything's still Snugglestorm, and I call this tour that I'm on the Snugglestorm tour, so I can still sell
so
my Snugglestorm,
my
Snugglestorm podcast shirts. But I don't know what to call it. Like it's not like a web show, but it's like a web stand-up series. But now I've released over 200 stand-up clips, and under the Snugglestorm brand, and it's funny. Like I made fun of the idea that like you can't your podcast can't blow up on like the 300th episode, but like I've been releasing stand-up clips consistently over time, and then 8 weeks ago I decided I was going to do a clip a day, like every single day. And then it was 5 weeks into that all of a sudden my social media started really blowing up, and because everybody like Mark Norman, Sam Morrell, they'd all be like, dude, you got to do it every day. You have to do a clip every single day. And I finally listened to them, and it's a lot of work, but yeah, that was the key to it. So maybe podcasting, it might be my thing, but I just couldn't do one every day.
Yeah, I definitely couldn't do it every day. There's people who do it every day, and it's wild to me. Sorry.
No.
Distracted.
You're getting messages. You're a popular guy.
Fiance, yeah. But I had just a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap it up on that. So you did a Comedy Central Presents, which now it is the half hour if somebody gets one now.
Yeah.
You did it, and I don't know if it was in the time frame when they had switched this over yet, but were they still doing the custom backdrops when you did yours?
Yeah.
And how much input did you get on that? I've always been, because that is the thing that bothers me so much about the half hours now, is that everybody, like, because I grew up watching Comedy Central Presents, where it was like, I thought that was the coolest thing. I was like, oh, one day I want to have my own backdrop. Like Dane Cook had like the rock band behind him or whatever, Like I did, like Mitch Hedberg had like the big sun behind him. Like I remember certain people's backdrops.
Yeah, so they had a whole set designing team, and that was also back in the day where because Comedy Central, back when. Like Comedy Central has always been a really good brand, but with the decline of television and the rise of streamers and the internet, Comedy Central has had less eyeballs watching them, and then less money, because the less eyeballs, the less money.
For sure.
And so they always had good people working there, but I think the new backdrops for the half hours are a result of they're
cost effectiveness.
Yeah, how can we do this cheaper? But back in the day, they had.
How did it work for you though? Like, how did did you get input in it?
Yeah, they were like, "What do you want your backdrop to be?" And I was like,
fucking cool.
I was like, anything. I can.
Cool.
I was like, I can do anything. And I had this bit that I did about how my name sounded like the horn of a moped, and so I was like, I want a Vespa scooter behind me. And they're like, "Do you want it to be red?" And I was like, "I want it to be pink. I think that'd be hilarious." and so they went out and they found a pink Vespa scooter, and traditionally speaking, like people get to keep their backdrops.
Oh, really?
And so, a Vespa scooter, I mean, those are expensive. And so I was talking about it because Comedy Central had to buy it. They didn't even lease it. They bought the Vespa scooter, and they're like, all right, you're going to get to keep the Vespa scooter. Well, the guy that directed the half hours, he's the guy that has been the director of Saturday Night Live for forever. And like we had a whole meeting with the director, and then at the end of the meeting, he's like, hey, he's like, by the way, I don't know if anybody minds, but he's like, it's like my daughter's birthday, and I want to get her, he's like, I'm taking the Vespa. And
that sucks,
and I was like,
dude.
I didn't feel like at that moment I could argue with him. I felt so lucky to be doing a half hour. I didn't even think that he thought it was like a dick move or anything like that, because he didn't know that I had spoken for it. But everybody was just kind of like, yeah, like we're so lucky to have you directing these, that they just gave him the Vespa. But I was so close to having a pink Vespa in New York City.
You would have had the pink Vespa from your taping too. It's not just a pink Vespa that you're getting necessarily either. That's like such a thing you can keep forever too. And like even if like the thing stops working, like it's still something you would want to keep, man. Yeah. You got the rough end of the deal on that one.
I really did.
I mean, you got a good deal. You ended up getting to go and do a Comedy Central Presents, but you got the rough deal where you didn't get to keep your backdrop, which kind of sucks, and everybody else did.
Everybody else got to keep their at least some component of their backdrop.
Yeah,
and
that's so cool though that they let you sort of choose that, and they let you keep it furthermore.
Yeah.
Usually.
Well, and my backdrop was pretty easy, so I think that was one of the reasons why they were willing to let me have it initially, because like you know, a lot of people had these elaborate backdrops.
Mitch Hedberg's was those giant cutout signs,
Yeah.
basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'd have like somebody that bought a drum set and all these, like they'd have to
Dan
buy
Cook
all
had a
these
full
guitars.
band.
And,
Yeah, it had like a guitar,
Yeah.
bass, and drum set.
So
I think the drum set had his name on it, if I'm right, or something.
yeah, so like a 12 grand Vespa was not that crazy compared to like a 12 grand drum set. I don't even know if that's how much drum sets cost, but
who knows?
but yeah, I was, you know, that was like a downside to that, but the upside to it was that, and I wish that special would have come out, you know, while like major social media was happening. Like it came out during the MySpace time. So like I had a lot of friends on MySpace. Like I was relieved when the top 8 went to the top 16, you know.
I remember.
Then Facebook came out, and I just was like, what is this? Like
Facebook sucked. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I gotta do another thing, and like I gotta get an email address and pretend like I'm in college, and like just to be on this thing. And then Facebook would cap your friends at 5K, so like I wasn't super serious about it. And then
They still do.
And then when Instagram came out, I should have jumped on it way sooner, and a lot of my friends did, and their numbers went up early. But I was just like, what is this thing? Like, I got to do another thing. I got to post.
It always feels like another thing.
It's
and
another.
Now it's TikTok.
And now it's TikTok. And like, so I was late to Instagram, and so my account wasn't very good for a long time.
Were
and
you
then,
late to TikTok?
No, I was early to TikTok.
So you're on it this time.
Yeah, once I heard about TikTok, I'm like, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And I started posting stand-up clips, and they started going viral. And I was like, oh my God, TikTok. And all these comedians would be like, man, TikTok sucks. And secretly I'd be like, man, I hope this becomes something, because I'm somebody here. Yeah. You know, like I'm the king of this town. And then, you know, I have a good amount of followers on TikTok, but then my Instagram has actually grown because of my TikTok, because TikTok lets you have an Instagram link grow.
That tends to happen. Yeah, I see that a lot now. So then I wanted to, so how far into comedy were you when you had the Comedy Central Presents? Because you said you've been doing it 24 years now. That was like, what, 2009, I think I saw?
Yeah, and I taped it in 2008. So it was so that was 14 years ago. So 10 years in. So
10 years in. So what did like your first 10 years in stand-up sort of look like to you? I ask this to everybody. If you could sum it up in short, if you were looking back on those first 10 years, what do you think it looked like a lot?
I was lucky enough. I was pretty funny, but I wasn't quite myself. And I was like always trying to find myself by trying to design it, you know, being like, well, this is who I am. I'm this guy. Instead of just sort of going up on stage and being myself and then letting the who I am form around that, you know, which is now I've gotten so comfortable in stand-up, and I feel like I also have enough kind of experience and clout in the business that I can now just sort of do what I want. You know, back in the day, it used to be that like you'd have to like tell Comedy Central, or you'd have to tell the late night shows like, this is who I am, and like this is my point of view, and this is why I am this thing. And it felt like writing a dumb research paper where you're like I just want to do stand up and be funny, and you know, and like figure, I guess you can tell me who I am or whatever. Like you had to like really tell Comedy Central who you were. And so I think that some of my earlier work was me kind of coming up with a thesis statement about who I am and then going with it, versus now I just get to kind of be who I am and do what I want. And then it's like, so, and I still am a shade of that guy, but I think I'm just more comfortable, and it feels like more of a hang when I'm on stage. And I think it's more fun for me, and I think it's more fun for the audience, you know?
Yeah, that's a great answer. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's it. That's the final thing, Pete. I appreciate you doing this. You've been a great guest on the podcast,
oh my God.
honestly.
Well,
it's been great talking to you, and I look forward to seeing you work the rest of this weekend.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and this is my favorite podcast.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in. You heard that right here. Pete Lee's favorite podcast, Detroit Comedy Podcast. Tune in again next week, everybody. Thanks for watching.